Hi everyone. In this video tutorial, we are going to discuss about caching with JPA and Hibernate. In our Spring Boot web application, there are multiple layers like web layers and service layer, data layer, and data layer communicate with the database to get the data. In web layer we have our controllers, and in service layer we write our business logics, and in data layer we write the code to communicate with the database. So Hibernate and JPA comes into the picture in data layer. So data layer need to retrieve data from the database. Suppose we want to show username on all the page of web application. Okay. For this, what we need to do is get data from the database every time if I don't have any caching mechanism. Typically, the database is installed on a separate system compared to your applications. So there is a network round trip, but the name of the user is not changed very frequently, and therefore it can be cached. Hibernate provide many options where you can cache these information into the data layers. Just we need to do is when first time user login, we put username in the cache, and for all the subsequent request for that specific user, we can return the data from the cache. Like from the cache, we just return the username every time for that particular user. So this is the concept of caching in JPA. So how Hibernate implement this concept? So there are two different level of caching: first level caching and second level caching. So in this picture we can see there are first persistence context, and then first level caching, then second level caching, then our database. So what is the difference between the first and second level caching? In any typical application, there are multiple transactions is going on in parallel. Here we have, so look in this picture, like in this picture we have 4 different transactions which is running in parallel, and each of these transactions is associated with the persistence context of its own. So each of these transactions have a persistence context where all the entity that are being modified during that transaction are tracked. So transaction 1 has its own persistence context, and transaction 2 has its own persistence context, and transaction 3 has its own persistence context, and transaction 4 also have its own persistence context. Suppose during transaction 1 we retrieve the same data again and again, like during this transaction we retrieve the same data again and again. So what will happen? The Hibernate would not go to the database all the 3 times, or suppose we retrieve 3 times the same data. So in this transaction 1, the Hibernate would not hit the database all the 3 times. Why? Because if in our application the persistence context having the all the record of the entity which being modified in that particular transaction. So the first time it would go to the DB, retrieve the detail, and it will have it inside the persistence context. Next time when you ask for the same data, then Hibernate actually return it back from the persistence context. It will not really talk to the database. This is where the first level cache comes into the picture. The first level cache is in the boundary of a single transaction. Within the boundary of a single transaction, if you retrieve the same data again and again, then first level cache comes into the picture. And then what is this second level cache? The second level cache comes into the picture across the multiple transaction. Let's say you have one instance of an application deployed on an application server or a web server and multiple users using these application. Irrespective of the user, the list of suppose there is list of state, so list of state is not going to change frequently. So this list of state we can put into the second level cache, and from this second level cache the all users can access this second level cache. Okay. So open the Eclipse, and here I have already write the code to explain the first level and second level cache here. So there is a very basic application. This is the main class, and this is the our controller. Controller have only one method, and it is talk with the service layer, calling the find student by ID method. So in service layer, this is the find student by ID, and from student by ID we call the our repo class find by ID method. So our repo class just extend JPA repository, so we can fetch the find by ID method, and this is our entity class, and this is our test class where we are going to test our applications here. So in this class, as we can see here, we just call the repo class find by ID method directly. Okay, no use the service layer here. So the same method I am calling the 2 times. Okay, same method. So let's debug this method. Debug as JUnit test. So now our application is started here. Okay, and press F6, then you can see when the find by id method is called, one select query is fired to get the data from the database. Okay, and this statement is written here, and again we are calling the same method inside this method. So we can see again one select query is fired, then this statement here printed. So here we can see that for every method calls, one select query is fired. Okay, it means here no use of any caching mechanism in this case. So how we can use the caching mechanism here? So first we are going to use the first level caching. So as we discussed, first level caching is depend on the transaction. Within the body of that transaction, all the entity which is modified is being tracked by the transaction. So for using the transaction, we just need to add here one annotations. That annotation is called add transactional by javax.transaction. Okay, this annotation we required here, and just save this, and again we are going to test this method debug as JUnit test. Again our application is debugging. Now the debugger is on line number 34. So just clear the console first, clear the console, and then press F6. So here we can see one select query is fired. Then press F6 again. So you can see this statement loginfo is printed here in the console, and again the same method we are calling here, which we call inside this method. So this time what happened? This time this request is just get the data from the cache, not from the database. It means this time no select query is fired. So as we can see, the method call is over, and in console you can see there is only one select query fired. Okay, and again this loginfo statement is written here, and both this option variable have their student record. So as we can see here, for both the method call there is only one select query is fire, means the first time the select query is fire and this data is placed inside the cache area, and then again when we call the same method and we are trying to get the same record 101, the student record of 101 ID, then this data is already placed in the cache. So just mm, this data returned back from the cache. And here we can see like JDBC put, JDBC hit, and JDBC L2C put, L2C hit, and L2C miss. L2C stand for level 2 cache. So we will discuss about this later. First we are talking about the first level caching. So here we can see how the first level caching is worked. Okay, and now when we come to the second level caching, so the first level caching is suppose it is a default functionality of our Hibernate. Just it required this add transactional annotation, and all the things is handled by the our Hibernate framework. Okay, but in second level caching, just we need to explicitly define few configuration to tell our Hibernate to cache the data which we want to cache. So for second level caching, we just required one dependency here, and so just add that dependency. First group ID, and then artifact ID. So in group ID, we required org.hibernate. And in artifact ID, just write hibernate dash EH cache. So in Hibernate, we just implement our second level caching by using that EH cache. So in pom.xml, only this dependency need to be added, and the in our properties file, we need to configure a few more properties here, like we want to use here EH caching for the our second level caching. So for cache, second level cache, we need three properties here. First is for enable the second level cache. And what is second one? Second one, to specify the caching framework. To specify the caching framework, like which caching framework we want to use. So here we are going to use EH cache. Sorry. Okay. And second properties is for to tell the Hibernate framework, like only cache what I tell to cache. Don't cache everything, because everything is not a good way to cache in the memory, because if data change, then we get the old data only, not the new one from the cache. So to tell the Hibernate framework that only cache what I tell you to cache. Okay, so these three properties configuration we required here. So first one is from spring.jpa.properties. Copy this. Spring.jpa.properties.hibernate hibernate dot cache dot use second level cache. Equal to true. Now comes to the our second properties configuration. So this is also from spring.jpa.properties.hibernate. So just copy this one and paste here. Hibernate cache dot region factory class so for this here we need to use one factory class which is called cache region factory. Okay, and we need to pass here the full qualified name of this factory class. So for this just press Ctrl Shift T and write here cache region factory. Cache region factory. So here we can see the two classes, one is from netsf and other is from org.hibernate. So use this second one, org.hibernate, and here just copy qualified name. Okay, and paste here. And then comes to our second properties. Third property. So third property is for only cache what I tell you to cache. Dot persistence dot shared cache mode. Cache dot mode equal to enable selective. enable underscore selective. So these three properties we need to configure in our properties class. One is for enable the second level cache with true, and second is for specify the caching framework es cache. So just need to define this class here, and third one is only cache what I tell you to cache. So here we define the enable selective. After this we required one more annotation here. Suppose this is the student data and we want to cache this student data into the second level caching, because suppose this data is not going to frequently change, so we can cache it into the second level cache. So for second level cache we just need add cacheable annotation. Add cacheable annotations. Okay, so after this few configuration, now our application is ready. Now this transactional is not required here. Okay, you can remove this also, because now the data is cached into the second level cache. Then run again, debug as JUnit. So our application is started here, and so as we can see here, the our select query is fired, and second time you can see there is no select query is fired. This is sorry, here the select query is fired 2 times. So I think we made few mistake here. Let's see. I think we made few mistake here. Shared cache mode equal to enable selective. Hibernate factory and this cache. Okay, so we can use this one. Maybe we have done few typing mistake, so we can use this one. This is the same code. Now run again this application. press F6. Now the select query is fired here first time, and again the call same method and same student we want to retrieve. So here we can see, yes, now this time it's work. Like here we can see L2C puts. L2C stand for level 2 cache puts. It means in level 2 cache it just put one record, okay, and L2C hit 0 and L2C miss 1. So this time our application is working fine. Now again call the same find by ID method with the same student ID 101. So you can see this time there will no query will fire, okay. So you can see here, so from the top we just see, we can see here one select query, and after that no select query is there, so only one select query is fired. And this time just in L2C put no new entity it put into the L2C this time, but L2C hit 1. It means it just get one entity from the level 2 cache. So it print here L2C hit 1 and L2C miss 0. And earlier what we saw here, L2C put 1, L2C hit 0 and L2C miss 1, okay. So second time no select query is fired and data is come from our second level cache. Then it print this in loginfo here, and then press in both optional we can see it having one student record, this student Rohit, and second option also it have the same student Rohit, okay. So in this way we can implement the caching in our Hibernate framework. So thanks for watching this video.